How's everybody doing today?
How y'all doing?
Yeah, man, how you doing?
Oh, how you doing?
I'm hanging, man.
Yeah, we said that a lot.
Been busy.
Busy.
Yeah.
Same, man. It's been a while. It's been over a week. Been what, 2 weeks
About
now?
2 weeks, man.
2
I know.
weeks.
And we were supposed to be doing videos at least twice a week. But
Twice a week. Hey, guys, I apologize. Listen, man, we apologize. We're just getting this thing started, but you guys are right there with us, so we appreciate you.
Thank you so much for tuning in again, man. Really appreciate the time. We appreciate the love. Another video today, man. We don't watch these videos ahead of time. We just kind of, watch them with you. And so we can enjoy it and experience it together. The last video we did pretty well. So we said, we'll do another video. This time it's about, not about high value, low value men, but just about men in general, right? Just,
General.
Yeah, and from two different perspectives, right? That seems to be a big issue nowadays. It's almost like, what is a man today, right? It's like, what is a woman? What is a man? Because, you
get one of
so
these.
you get so many different perspectives, right? And if you're a real man, sometimes you can be seen as being, toxic or something,
Too
right?
manly.
Yeah. So it's like, but then if you're not manly enough, you could be seen as, why aren't
Weak.
you? Yeah, you're a weak individual or something. So figure we watch a video, see what their perspective was on it, the different people in the group that is, and then we'll talk about it a little bit as well.
Relax with us. Let's watch some masculine videos.
Let's get into the video. Got anything else before I start?
No, man, I'm all set.
All right, let's get to it. Let's see what they got to say.
My name's Krishna. Thank you all for being here and talking through masculinity, what it means to be a man, etc. Obviously, we couldn't fit every man in the country into this room. We tried to get a diverse perspective, but of course, that caveat, we're not everyone. I wanted to start by telling you why this is something that I'm interested in. I have an 8-year-old son, and I'm seeing him absorb what manliness might mean. I'm thinking to myself, what does it mean to be a man? To start, maybe we could just introduce each other to each other. And if you were to describe what it means to be a man or to be masculine.
My name is Tahoe. I'm a black man from the hood. When I was young, being a man, you had to be tough. You had to be hard. And now, to me, being a man is a lot different. Now, to me, being a man is knowing when to be soft, knowing that you don't always have to run the charge. You can actually listen. You know what I mean? So things have changed a lot over the course of the years for me.
I'm Griffin, and I don't identify as a man. I'm non-binary. I still have elements of, my identity that are masculine, elements that are feminine, elements that don't fall within that range. And I personally just don't feel tied to the norms or the confines of gender at all.
Well, welcome.
My name is Dylan, and I think that the notion of masculinity is just something that can be possessed by man or woman. Man, woman, non-gender conforming person. What it means to be masculine is just changing and very fluid. But I think that, masculinity is something that just, you embody based off of just how you show up in this world as a man and just how you go about being your day-to-day.
How you show up. Interesting.
Yes.
What's up, guys? My name is Paul. I'm a fitness entrepreneur. I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 4 years old with my family. It's kind of funny how we're talking about it. My take on masculinity is not about talking as much as doing. I think at its core, a man has to be efficient, competent, and be willing to do what it takes for themselves and their loved ones.
I was not always a good man. I was not always what you would call a healthy masculine man. And so as my life has changed, I've identified 5 points that I think make a truly masculine man masculine.
Okay.
I think point number 1 is a man who walks with God. Point number 2 is a man who stands on principle. Point number 3, which is a masculine man, is self-sacrificing. So someone who is willing to sacrifice for point 4, the people that he leads. A true man is a leader. And number 5, a masculine man is never a coward.
That's a lot there.
Yeah.
Let's get into that as we go on.
I think what it means to be a man is responsibility. As a man, it can come with a lot of power, and with great power comes great responsibility. In short words. That's it.
That's from Spider-Man, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
that's what
Uncle Ben.
James.
Well, my name is James Killen, former United States Marine turned Air Force officer. Got a couple combat tours, but I'm also a father of 3 girls who mellowed me out. The idea of masculinity is something that I find interesting because it is changing, and I can actually see those changes in myself. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this panel.
Thanks for your service. Andre.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, men. I think my idea of a real man is, someone that gets the job done, and provides and all that. I don't even know what that means anymore, but I don't know. It's changing every day.
How do you think it's changing?
No, it just seems like everything is changing every day. It's like a new world order, so I have a hard time keeping up with stuff, so I feel like tomorrow it's going to be something else, and people are going to comment and be like, you're wrong, it's this now.
It is hard to talk about some of this stuff because you feel like you might say the wrong thing.
I'm not really masculine myself, so I feel like I'm like the wrong person to ask.
Maybe the right person to ask. Christian.
What it means to be a man is to be a adult human male.
That's sort of a very formal definition, but I think that might be a good place to kick off because there's a lot of talk, of writing, of research these days that says there's a crisis in masculinity.
All right, so do you want to touch on at least the panel that we have so far?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know where my stance would be. I don't think I'll take a hard stance on anybody here, anybody's opinion rather. Back to front, I mean, you're hearing a lot of definitions about what it is to be a man.
Yeah.
I think a better approach, if I were on that panel, my approach would purely be, this is how I live my life. If you want to define that as a man, go for it. However, how I look at it is my principles, plus being a man, plus living in my purest form of masculinity. What is it like, the yin and yang? What is it like, complementing? The femininity, the feminine energy around me and through me. Taking response, like that's just how I live. If you want to define that as masculine, cool. If you want to ask what is masculinity, hey man, I don't have an answer for you. You're going to have to figure that out on your own. And I think that's what this panel is. It's just a bunch of males, who are individually defining it on their own. So I kind of just threw a wrench in the whole entire panel because it's like, if Vice were to come to me and say, hey, Jared, what is a man? Like, you define that, and how you define it is going to be different from me. End of debate. Let's move on to the next topic, So I don't know.
Well, I personally kind of agree with, I think 3 of them said stuff that I agree with.
Yeah.
The guy with the cowboy hat, obviously.
Cowboy, baby.
The Asian guy with the gray shirt on in the front. I think he defined it very clearly, and and he didn't need a lot of words to do it. He just basically, said exactly what I kind of feel a man is. So, or what a man should be, about the responsibility, about the self-sacrifice. I think the cowboy touched it on the leadership. He touched it on, being a man does not mean that you have to, in a sense, he touched on being a man is not, being overpowering, overbearing in a sense, right? And then the Marine guy, I thought did a pretty good job as well. He was kind of short, but I think he touched on it as well, right? Just it goes back to leadership again, right? And your place in the home and with the family. So I don't know. The other guys, like the Asian guy on the right, on the end, I kind of feel sorry for him in a sense because I can tell that he's a man, right? But I don't know where his confidence is. If you look at him when he's talking, he's not looking at anybody. He's just kind of looking around the room. And that's something you can always, my dad used to teach me that when I was young.
Gotta look at people.
Yeah, when somebody talks to you as a man, you look directly at them. And I'm not saying you got to stare at him. You have to, be looking into his eyes or trying to see his soul or anything. But, when you're talking to somebody, you should be looking at the person that you're talking to, letting them know that you're there, you're present. My dad, it's funny, my dad was very big on that and a handshake. And I think that was like back in the day. Back in the day, like.
Bring it back.
My dad, man.
Bring it back.
When my dad would shake my hand when I was an adult, and when I would come back to the house and, to see my parents and stuff. And he'd be like, hey, son, how you doing? My dad was a very masculine man. So he would shake my hand. It was very rare we hugged. It's like something had to happen for us to hug, right? But, when he would shake my hand, it was like, that squeeze, that manly squeeze that used to have.
Firm grip.
Yeah. So the handshake and the eye contact was something my dad was big on. And the first thing I just noticed about that guy was that when the guy was talking to him, he was looking over there, he was looking over there, he was looking all over the place. And I just noticed that he just didn't really have much of a presence, wasn't really, focusing on looking directly at the person that asked him that question. And not to harp on things too much, but so, one of my businesses is a gaming lounge, right? And one of the reasons why I opened that business was because, I noticed that like my daughter, right? My daughter could text and tweet with the best of them.
Oh yeah, super fast.
If there was an Olympic event in tweeting and texting,
she'd win gold medal all day.
Oh yeah, she'd be one of the finalists all the time out of people from all over the world. But I remember one day asking her because she wanted something from Starbucks, and I said, "Okay, go in there and get it." And she was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Go in there and get it." "What you mean?" "What I mean?" She said, "Can we go through the drive-through?" I was like, "Nah, you can go in there and get it." Because I already had seen that she had an issue when it came to just having conversations with people. So I was trying to break her out of that and forcing her to go in there. So that's what kind of, really gave me really pushed me to want to open the place that I opened, right? Because I was like, kids nowadays are so focused on being in their rooms, right? Being siloed on their phones, on their computers. Nowadays you don't have to leave the house. When we were young, if you wanted to do something, you had to go outside.
I had to. It's going to be a dark, quiet.
Exactly.
Like you don't hear that. You don't see the quiet. You in your house and it's like, there's nobody in here.
Yeah. I mean, you had to go out to get groceries. You had to go out to meet people. You had to go out, if you wanted to be on the dating market, you had to go out to see family and friends. Nowadays, you don't have to do none of that. You can get your groceries online. You can meet your friends online. You can make, you can meet your next significant other if it's so be, if it's going to happen, you can meet them on these dating apps. So, nowadays kids are so siloed. I was like, I want to create a place where people can get back together, force them to, interact with each other. Because now if somebody's sitting next to you, if that person turns and says something to you, you're going to have to say something back.
You have to say something back.
Right? I would hope you would.
Oh, you talking to me? Like,
and I can see the change, right? Because I've had people come in here. I have a tournament every Thursday, and one of the guys that was coming in here, when I would talk to him, he was doing the same thing this guy was doing. He was just
looking around.
Yeah. And now when I talk to him, he looks me right in my face. He's been coming in for about a couple months now, you know, and I kind of forced it, right? Because one time when he was talking to me, he was like doing like this. I was doing like this. I was moving with him, like
catching it.
I was like, "You talking to me? You talking to me?" And, but and I did it in a playful way to not embarrass him. But I can see that it's changed, So I think that's what, I think it's important, and I think that's what people need. And you can see, I can already see that he's going to have some horror stories. He's going to have some hard stories in dating. I just can see it already. But anyway.
Well, didn't he start with the 150 and then got ghosted?
Oh yeah, he did.
That was him. Yeah.
So trust me.
So he's already got one.
I think we got more.
There's got to be more.
So let's get back to it.
What is that crisis?
The thing that I see is a lot of deconstructing generational trauma. The be a man, boys don't cry, this, that, and the other thing. And I think that's actually one of the reasons why we see it as a crisis, because we're actually trying to redefine what it means to be a man, and none of us have any idea because we're just out here trying to be whoever we are.
That's right. I think that historically, being a man was rooted in patriarchy and misogyny. And now we realize how harmful that has been over the years. And so we don't really know how to define where we're supposed to be. And I think the reason, as they're saying, is a crisis is because the box has gotten so small for just being, say, straight, just being a hetero, right? Because if you do anything, women judge you.
What do you mean anything?
If I dance a certain way, or if I wear my hair a certain way, if I dress a certain way, they go, real men don't do that. Real men don't do that. And so you get scared to move a certain way because you don't want to get judged or outed out of the accepted part of your community.
So the biggest thought that I have, the immediate thought that comes to mind when he says that is there aren't enough examples of what a man is around the people in his community. I don't know if around him, but he, coming from the hood is what he was saying.
Yeah.
I don't believe based off of just what he is saying. I don't believe that there's enough examples of what a man is. And a man is who you define a man to be. However, collectively, there are some traits that men pick up. And a lot of those traits, I would say the vast majority of them are traits we're picking up. So our feminine counterparts don't have to. I think that's where the term gentleman came from. Okay. Now, when I go to a club, I don't go to many clubs anymore. I used to a lot, 10, 11 years ago. Not even, right?
10, 11.
10, 11, something like 10, 11.
Like one word, 10, 11.
Hey, so for everything that wasn't today or yesterday, it was about 10, 11 years ago. You know what I'm saying? All right. So about 10, 11, I was in the club and I didn't dance. I never danced. And I just came across the mentality of, it wasn't like someone told me this. And we're just using dance as an example because that's what he said, just the one thing he said. Dancing isn't for me. It's just for me. God bless you, Chris Brown. God bless you, Michael Jackson. Y'all can move. I just feel that dancing is advertisement that women make for men to notice them. It's the mating dance. Like most dances are feminine unless you're doing them together. Now that's a completely different story. But I'm saying when you're at the club and you're watching the dance floor and you have a girl dancing, unless you partake in it with her, which is now stand-up mating in my mind, I would just stand back and let her enjoy herself. When I have made a connection through either, visual, verbal, body language, what have you, that's when I move in and I join her as long as I'm getting the cues back that her dancing is actually sent a presentation, right? This is where twerking came from. This is where, the WAP dance came from. All that is just advertisement for the woman. So if you are out there dancing on the dance floor and there are women on the sideline, you're not dancing with anyone. It doesn't come across as this is what men do. And I think this is what he's talking about. Oh, I can't dance because men don't do that. You can dance, but it's like dancing, I feel like evolutionary has been for human females to advertise to human males. And unless the male joins in. Either way, moving off of dancing. What do you say about that?
He said a few things I didn't really agree with too much.
Yeah, that was just one of them. I didn't necessarily vibe with that. Like you don't necessarily have to be concerned about your masculinity because you're dancing. I think it's more weird. So I think that's what to sum it up, I think the better way to approach that was for me to say, hey, how are you dancing? Because that's probably where they're questioning your masculinity. Because a lot of these modern dances that you're seeing men doing, they're feminine dances. Like, I don't want to see the nay-nay. I don't even want to replicate it for y'all right now. But I think that's where he's being questioned. But that's the one thing that stuck out to me. And yeah, that's him. I did agree with the couple other things that guys were saying, most specifically moving to the cowboy. I did agree with him, actually having a definition. I like that. Like you have a definition, you have a set of guidelines, walking with God, standing on principles. Yeah. Being a leader for those around you, not being a coward, self-sacrificing was the fifth one or another one. I think those are just some elements, you can add to that list. And I do appreciate the fact that he admitted that he started off not good as a man, but then he developed those principles, those 5 points, probably through experience. But yeah, speaking about the guy from the hood, yeah, man, to sum it all up, I think that he, just looking back on his experience, if he were to have been around men who were to say, yeah, we understand you want to dance, cool, man, you could dance with the ladies, let me show you how to dance. Or let me show you how to speak to a feminine energy. So
I think the couple of things that I disagreed with was he said that being a man was rooted in patriarchy and misogyny. I don't really get too into the whole patriarchy concept. That's not something I really believe in. I believe we live in an egalitarian society. I think people bring up patriarchy a lot. I think if you really look into your history, men suffered just as much as women. There was a very small group of people that were outside of that suffrage, but men were suffering too. So I don't understand why they make it seem like the patriarchy has been this thing that benefited men and, you know, and it's a part of being masculine. I don't really get into that. And then
I'm like, what is the patriarchy?
It's a buzzword now that keeps getting thrown around.
Right.
And I think, and especially with feminism, I think kind of was what sparked it, right? But it's been thrown around for a long time. And I hate hearing that word. You have to be in a serious egalitarian society to have women shouting out patriarchy from their self, especially women, right? Because in the patriarchy, women wouldn't have the ability to say those things. One of the gifts I think God has given women is their power of influence. I think that's why women are so much better when it comes to being in social circles and things like that. And women are very social, group-oriented kind of creatures, right? And that's not to knock them. I just think that they're better in those areas. I think that's why women can be...
They're built for it.
Yeah, that's why women are a lot more successful when they're in a group. But I think because of that, when they get into those groups and then they start, you know, spewing some of that stuff outward, that sometimes they can influence people who might not have at once agreed with that. And men can do that too. So I'm not going to make it seem like it's just women, but I think that is one of those things that has come out of that volcano. And it has been something that now is this thing that everybody's talking about. First of all, we don't live in a patriarchal society. I don't see how we could. Women have just as much rights as men. As a matter of fact, they have more rights than men. When you look at it across our society, who has more suffrage than men? Women they didn't even have to worry about military conscription. You know, men were...
Or they still don't.
Yeah, they still don't. And they got the right to vote. And, you know, that's another thing when I hear women talk about patriarchy and how we've only had 100 years, being able to vote for about 100 years now. There were women that honestly didn't want that right to vote because they were worried it would come with that conscription of having to, you know, be drafted.
Well, I will tell you this, and my belief is that I think women have always, since the dawn of time, been voters in our society. I think women have always...
You mean it influenced the vote? Oh, maybe so.
I tell you what, ain't a man on this planet in a relationship with the woman, and when the woman she's standing on something and she is sure about it, but it's going to take the man to act on it, that he's going to be like, nah, we ain't doing. Eventually, she's going to get that house.
Nah.
Eventually, she's going to get that car.
Nah.
Eventually, she's going to get that ring. Eventually, she's going to get that dress.
There are certain guys out there that like that, but no, I can't totally agree with that. I do think that women do have a very powerful influence when it comes to, you know, things that happen within their households. I think that most men, they know how to stand on what they believe is true and make the right decisions. There are some that won't.
Which is true. Definitely, now, if we're talking a wrong decision.
But how do you know what a decision is right or wrong when you're making that decision?
For me, if I were to be in a household with a woman, my mentality is going to be like this. Hey, I'm going to make those tough calls, those decisions. I'm going to be the final say. However, that is about as far as it goes because that's just the responsibility of the decision making. Yes, honey, we're going to go that way. However, her role, and this is critical, she is my number one advisor in this household.
Of course.
So I'm not making a decision without running it past her because two heads are better than one for one. Secondly, you're getting a feminine point of view, which is going to be complementary but different than your masculine point of view. And so if it lines up with what you're going to do, cool. You know that decision.
There's no conversation. But I'm talking about but what you said earlier was that a woman can influence a man into doing something because it's something she really wants to do.
Which I still agree with, because if she's solid on it and I tell her, honey, that is not something I want us doing. Women, I've experienced it. They'll let it go. Okay, cool. I'll let it go. I'm not going to compete with this man is the vibe you'll get. However, later on down the road, if you hear it again,
you're going to hear it again.
And then you hear it again.
But the thing is,
eventually, as men, we're going to find a way to make that happen. And that's what I mean by her having that quite essential role as my advisor.